Deep in the digital shadows, there's a multi-billion-dollar economy, and it's absolutely thriving. But it's not built on products or services. It's built on stolen data, hijacked networks, and corporate extortion. Today, we're going inside this digital underworld to see exactly how it works and who's really pulling the strings.
So, all of our intel for this briefing comes straight from the source, the 2025 Threat Landscape Report for the Middle East, Turkey, and Africa. This was put together by the cyber intelligence experts at Cybel. We're looking right at their findings, their data, and their analysis of a region that's really on the front lines of a global digital war. And we're not talking about just any region. The meta region, that's the Middle East, Turkey, and Africa, is a massive global hub for finance, for energy, for logistics. And because of that, it's an incredibly valuable and, an incredibly vulnerable target for cybercriminals. As the report makes crystal clear, it has become a true digital battlefield.
Okay, so this chart kind of breaks down the chaos into the three biggest threats they're seeing. It's not just one thing, it's more like a three-headed monster. At the very top, with a staggering 630 incidents, you've got data breaches and leaks. Then you have the sale of network access, what's called access sales, with 219 incidents. And finally, ransomware, with 190 attacks. We're going to dig into each one of these.
So, let's start with a concept that sounds like it's pulled straight out of a spy movie, selling the actual keys to a corporate kingdom. Welcome to the world of initial access brokers.
So what in the world is an initial access broker? Well, put simply, they're the ones who do the dirty work of breaking into a company's network. But here's the twist. Instead of stealing anything themselves, they just package up that access, the username, the password, the VPN login, and they sell it on the dark web to the highest bidder. And that bidder is the one who then launches the main attack, like ransomware.
And who are their favorite targets? Well, retail is at the top of the list. And it makes sense, right? That's where all the credit card numbers and personal customer data is. Right behind them, you've got government and law enforcement agencies, which are usually targeted for espionage or just to cause disruption. And of course, banking and financial services are right up there for pretty obvious reasons.
So who are these sellers? Well, you've got your big names, your most prolific players like StepBro, PersonX, and Big Brother. But take a look at that massive others category. That tells you everything. The market isn't run by a few kingpins. Nope. It's a fragmented, opportunistic, free-for-all where the barrier to entry is super low. Basically, anyone with a little bit of skill can get in on the action.
And that leads us directly from selling the keys to just stealing the crown jewels themselves. Data breaches. By volume, this is the #1 threat out there, turning our personal and corporate information into just another commodity to be bought and sold. Just let that number sink in for a second. 630. That's 630 separate data breaches and leaks in just 1 year in just this one region. That's almost 2 major data spills every single day. The scale is just mind-boggling.
Now, to really understand the real-world impact of a number like that, the report gives us a specific case study. It's a massive breach that targeted a critical infrastructure sector in Dubai. We're not talking about just any company. This involved essential services people rely on. And from that one single attack, more than 620,000 individual records were exposed. That's how one successful hack can instantly impact the lives of hundreds of thousands of people.
So what kind of data are we talking about here? This was not just a list of email addresses. Oh no, they got it all. Full names, private emails, national ID codes, hashed passwords, and even deeply sensitive stuff like people's health insurance status. I mean, that is the complete toolkit for identity theft, fraud, you name it.
Hey, remember that name Big Brother from the Access Brokers slide? Well, here he is again. This time, he's the single most active person disclosing data leaks. This just goes to show how these criminals work across different parts of the whole cybercrime ecosystem.
All right, now for the third and maybe the most disruptive threat of all, ransomware. This is basically digital extortion on a massive scale. Criminals get in, lock up a company's data, and then demand a fortune to hand over the keys.
In just 1 year, 188 organizations across the region got hit with ransomware. And these aren't just numbers on a page. Each one represents a business grinding to a halt, a hospital thrown into chaos, or a critical government service that just stops working.
And here they are, the rogues gallery responsible for the mayhem. The report shows that it's really just a handful of groups causing a huge amount of the damage. The Qilin group was the most active, with 20 victims, but right on their heels were Nightspire and the infamous CL0P and INC ransom gangs. Think about it. Together, these four groups are behind nearly a third of all the attacks.
Now here's a surprise. The number one target wasn't finance or tech, it was the construction industry. So why them? Well, these huge construction projects have incredibly tight deadlines and face massive financial penalties for any delays. That makes them way more likely to just pay the ransom to get their systems back online fast.
So you have to wonder, how are all of these attacks, the access sales, the data breaches, the ransomware, how are they even possible? Well, almost all of them start in the same place, a crack in the digital foundation, a software vulnerability.
And that brings us to a really critical term you need to know, a known exploited vulnerability, or KEV for short. Now, this isn't some theoretical bug. A KEV is a confirmed weakness that criminals are actively using in the wild right now to break into systems. For any security team, a KEV is a massive, blinking red light.
And this table right here shows you just how serious these flaws are. Look at those CVSS scores. That's how we measure severity. Anything over a 9.0 is considered critical. These vulnerabilities in major products from Adobe, Wing, and even Apple, they're essentially digital skeleton keys. They allow an attacker to just walk right in, execute code, and completely take over a system.
Okay, so the picture might seem a little bleak right now, but the report doesn't just lay out the threats. It also gives a really clear blueprint for defense. So how can organizations actually fight back against this onslaught?
The report boils it down to a core three-step strategy. First, rapid patch management for KEVs. The moment a known exploitive vulnerability is announced, you have to patch it immediately. Second, robust network segmentation. This basically means building digital walls inside your network, so if an attacker gets through one door, they can't roam around the whole house. And third, enhanced monitoring. You've got to spot the intruders before they can do any major damage.
This final quote from the report really just says it all. The biggest challenge isn't always some sophisticated, state-sponsored spy. The biggest threat is the sheer volume of opportunistic crime. Countless attackers who are constantly just rattling digital doorknobs looking for an easy way in.
Which leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? In a world that is completely run on data, who is truly in control? Is it the people who create it, the people who use it, or the criminals who exploit it? You know, if you found this breakdown valuable and you want more complex topics explained with this kind of direct analysis, please hit that like button and subscribe. Your support really does help us keep making these explainers. Thanks for watching.